The interview that happened this morning with President Trump and President of El Salvador, Bukele, just revealed how stupid CNN is and how they're advocating for criminals that go after women and children.
Let's hear the question from this very low-rated anchor at CB.
Thank you, President. Do you plan to ask President Bukele to help return the man who your administration says was mistakenly deported? The man who was mistakenly deported to El Salvador?
And of course, CNN is pushing this false narrative claiming that President Trump and his administration mistakenly deported this man back to El Salvador. Giving headline news like this saying, judge says deportation of man to El Salvador prison is wholly lawless with deadline to return him to America today. They also published false misleading headlines stating Supreme Court says Trump must facilitate return of man mistakenly deported to El Salvador.
It's very arrogant even for American media to suggest that we would even tell El Salvador how to handle their own citizens as a starting point. As two immigration courts found that he was a member of MS-13. When President Trump declared MS-13 to be a foreign terrorist organization, that meant that he was no longer eligible under federal law, which I'm sure you know, you're very familiar with the INA, that he was no longer eligible for any form of immigration relief in the United States. So he had a
In the interview, the Trump administration explained what exactly happened in the courts and how this guy, he's not innocent, he's an MS-13 gang member. And because President Trump declared that MS-13 is considered a terrorist group, because of the affiliation to a terrorist group, he is no longer qualified or eligible to be protected under immigration laws of the United States. And he is a citizen to El Salvador. I just find it really comical that people like CNN are trying to make this guy seem like he's an innocent bystander of the Trump administration. And they're the same group that claims they're all about women's rights. But let me remind you what MS-13 is known for.
Who again is a member of MS-13, which, as I'm sure you understand, rapes little girls, murders women, murders children, is engaged in the most barbaric activities in the world. And I can promise you, if he was your neighbor, you would move right away.
Don't you find it so strange that CNN is advocating so hard for someone that is affiliated to a gang that harms women and children? And in this last clip, watch how Bukele just makes the CNN reporter look absolutely ridiculous and stupid for asking those questions.
Can President Bukele weigh in on this? Do you plan to return him?
Well, I'm supposed to have suggested that I smuggle a terrorist into the United States, right? How can I return him to the United States? Like I smuggle him into the United States, or whether I do it? Of course, I'm not going to do it.
So you guys talk about President Trump is causing all this issue with our allies for you to turn around and ask the president of El Salvador, are they willing to break the law and smuggle terrorists into the United States?
I smuggle him into the United States, or whether I do it? Of course, I'm not going to do it. It's like, the question is preposterous. How can I smuggle a terrorist into the United States? I don't have the power to return him to the United States.
But you can release him inside of Salvador.
Yeah, but I'm not releasing. We're not very fond of releasing terrorists into our country. We just turned the murder capital of the world into the safest country of the Western Hemisphere, and you want us to go back into the releasing criminals so we can go back to being the murder capital of the world? No, that's not going to happen.
Well, they'd love to have a criminal, released into
there's a fascination.
They would love it.
Yeah.
They're sick. These are sick people. Mark, do you have something to say about
Yeah, Stephen outlined it.
The lack of common sense is comical at this point. I love how President Trump just pretty much said these people are sick people. They love to have criminals running around. It's astonishing to me that that reporter continued to push to let this man free as if he's some innocent person. And I love how Bukele just put them all in their place and how ridiculous they sound by saying, I just made El Salvador one of the safest places in the Western Hemisphere from the murder capital, and yet now you want me to release terrorists on the streets and go backwards? All this press conference did was continue to reveal how fake media protects criminals, advocates for criminals, and hates America, and their only sole purpose is to destroy America.